Hello, wonderful soulmates. You're highly welcome back to my channel once again. So, in today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut and sew a modest off-shoulder top. Okay, so if this is what you love to learn, I urge you to stay tuned to the end of this tutorial because it's going to be a full package. You learn how to cut and sew an off shoulder that is very modest, and we're working directly on our main fabric. Okay, so this is the fabric I'm working with. As you can see, it is the same fabric that you saw on the finished top. Okay, so this fabric is folded into two, and this is our front part. So I have length of 24.5. That include my actual length and my allowance for hemming. Okay, so I'm going to mark my line starting from my shoulder to chest line. I'll mark it, then my shoulder to bust line. I'll also mark it, then my shoulder to my under bust line, then my shoulder to my waist, and the remaining part becomes the length like I mentioned earlier. Okay, so if you want yours to be longer, just in fact just use exactly your blouse length or your top length. You can make it as long as you want, or you know you can make it the way you want. So I went on to roll the lines that I just marked here, as you can see, and I'm going to label them. So here will be my shoulder line, and this second part here is going to be my chest line. Then I also have my bust point line here. Okay, then I have my under bust, then this is my waist, then here I will label it as length. Okay, so these are the lines that I'll be working with. Okay, so without wasting time, I am going to so I have about 8.5 inches below my waistline. Okay, so I measured my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I mark it on the shoulder line and also on my chest line. Okay, so I'll proceed to connect into a straight line with my ruler. Okay, so we are going to be using basic bodice method. Okay, because I think that is the easiest way to cut out off shoulder that is modest and won't confuse us. Okay, so I went on to slope my shoulder by 1 inch and get my neck width of 3 inches. So what I'm doing here is to draft our basic bodies. Okay, so I proceeded to divide what I have on my armhole line into two, and I came in by 0.5 inches. I also measured my bust circumference divided by 4, and I marked it. So it's time for me to connect to form our front armhole curve. Okay, so I went on to connect like this, and I also came down by 3 inches for my neck depth. Okay, and that is what you see me connecting right here. Okay, so I was done doing that, and the next thing I'm going to do is to get our waist dart. Okay, so if you want yours to have princess darts, armhole princess darts, you can do that as well, but I'm using waist dart. Okay, so I measured my bust circumference, that is my nipple to nipple, my bust span, sorry, my bust span, that's my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I mark it. Then on the line, on both side of the line where I mark, I measured half an inch on both sides. Then I came down by 4.5 inches, and I marked on the 4.5 inches below my waistline. Okay, so I'm going to pick up my ruler now, and I'll connect this to the bust point line up there, and connect the second part as well. And after that, I'm going to be connecting all the lines to the 4.5 inches below the waistline that I marked. Okay, so here now we have our waist darts ready. Okay, so can you see what I have here? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to impute my body measurements. Okay, so this same measurements, my bust circumference divided by 4, I'll put it on my chest line, then on my bust point line as well. Then I also mark my under bust divided by 4 and mark it. Then my waist divided by 4 and also mark it. Then I will replace the dart of 1 inch. Remember, because we remove half an inch on both lines, making it 1 inch in total, and I replaced it. Then here I'll be imputing my hip circumference divided by 4. So I went on to mark it, and I'm just going to connect the lines. And once I was done connecting the line, it will be time for me to add my ease allowance, because remember we're working directly on my main fabric, and that requires that we add our ease allowance. Okay, so I went on to add ease allowance of 2 inches, and I marked. Okay, so I proceeded to connect as well, and this is what we have. Can you see it? So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to show you what we're going to do to get our modest off shoulder. Okay, so that is what I'm going to be explaining now. Remember, I've already come down here by 1 inch, so I'm going to measure from the beginning and come down by about 3 inches. Okay, so I measured from the beginning. Okay, from the beginning of the fabric there, and I measured 3 inches and I marked. Okay, so here now you're going to determine how up you want it to be. Okay, so mine, I want it to be 4.5 inches. Okay, 4.5 inches. So that is what I marked there. I marked 4.5 inches, and I'm going to connect to the initial one I mark. So remember, my chest line is 12 inches. Okay, so that is what I mark here. So if I mark that 12 inches and add allowance, you see that it's still the same thing with where my armhole is. Okay, so if you like, you can use your front chest line. Okay, your chest line for the front, and divide it into 2 for the front part, then add your allowance. You will still arrive to the same thing I did here. So that is why I say the best way is to use basic body method, altering of basic body method, as you can see. So I proceeded to connect it, as you can see, and I want to reduce my allowance there, so I made the allowance 1.75 instead of 2 inches. So from there I reconnected the armhole. Okay, because I didn't want the armhole line to be too fitted, since I didn't use bustier. I'm just using waist dart. Okay, so if I had used bustier and want to make it very fitted, then I will connect my armhole deeper, but now I want it to be shallow. Okay, so I want it to be shallow this way, so that it doesn't become too tight, since I'm not adding any word onto it. There is no, it's not bustier. Okay, so you can see what I have here. So I'm going to measure what I have there, here, from here to my bust point line. You can see I have about 5 inches. And remember, I'm working directly on my main fabric, so by the time we turn it, we're going to have 4.5 inches. Okay, so here now I want to go up by about 5 inches, and I'm just going to connect down like this. Okay, so I went on to connect. Okay, this is the shape I want to have on the hem. Okay, so this is totally optional. If you don't want to have this shape, you can go ahead and just curve it out a little, maybe with 1.5 inches, and that's all. So I wanted it to have a shape of something looking like back waistline, so it's not a deep back waistline. Okay, so I was done, and it's time for me to cut out, and I proceeded to cut out. And after cutting out, it will be time for us to cut our back part. Okay, so that is it. So with this method down, you will have a modest off shoulder, not the one that will be revealing your cleavage, your bust area. No, this is very modest. As you can see from the beginning of this tutorial, it was not revealing any of my busts, and it was not falling. Okay, it was not falling off my shoulder line, it was just staying put. Okay, so that is it for your off shoulder that is very modest. So this is the back parts fabric, and I went on to set aside 1.5 inches for zipper allowance, and I placed the front part on it. So note that the back fabric is also folded into two. Okay, so I went on to place it, and I traced the waistline into the back fabric. So I came in by 0.75 and I marked. Okay, remember the allowance I have is 1.5 inches. So I marked and I connected this way, and I also connect up. This is to eliminate the zipper bulge at the waistline. Okay, so that is the reason for this, to eliminate zipper bulge at the waistline. Okay, so after doing this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect. Okay, so I am going to mark also the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. That is what I marked there. Okay, that is what I marked up right there. And at this point I want to measure what we remove when we're cutting the off shoulder. Okay, because of that strap that I added. So it's totally optional. If you don't want to add the strap, then there will be no need for that. So I measured this upper part. I measured my nipple to nipple point divided by 2. That is exactly that line straight up. Okay, so if you check the line I marked up, you follow that line, and I notched that point. Okay, so here I was done cutting, as you can see, and now the back part and the front part is ready, and I'm showing you where I notched. Okay, so because of that strap, so now it's time to cut out the sleeve, and I'm going to measure what I have on the around armhole. So I have about 8.5 inches here. So I'm going to set it aside, and it will be time for me to get another fabric. So I have this fabric here, and it's for my sleeve, and it's folded into two. Okay, so this one is going to be for the first sleeve, and I set aside 1 inch from the beginning. Okay, so as to be able to use it for my hemming allowance. And this upper part I came down by 0.5 inches. Okay, so that is what you see me marking here right now. And the next thing I'm going to do right now is to um I'm going to measure what I have here. Okay, so remember, before you do this, you're going to measure your round shoulder. You're not just measuring your shoulder for the back alone. You're going to measure your shoulder round through your sleeve round. Okay, so at this point now, I'm going to measure what I have here. Then I'm going to multiply it into 2 for the front and back. Okay, then whatever I get, I'm going to subtract it from the overall round shoulder that I measured. Okay, so that is what I'm going to do now, and whatever remains, that is what I'll use to cut out my sleeve, the shoulder part of my sleeve. Okay, so at the end, what remained was 16 inches. When you divide 16 inches by 4, you have 4 inches. Okay, so I marked that 4 inches. I added about 1 inch allowance, and I came down by 5.5 inches. Okay, then I also mark my bicep divided by 2. Okay, so that is what I'm measuring here. I mark my bicep divided by 2. I added about 1.75 inches allowance to it. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to connect like this. Okay, so I'm just going to connect like the shape of what I have around my armhole. Then I also connect to the 0.5 inches I came down. Do you understand here? So I'll just connect to it. Okay, and now it will be time for me to measure what I have here. So remember, I will have allowance here added, so I'm going to measure what I have here, and I want to be sure that I have exactly what I have on my armhole line so that it can fit in. So after I was done measuring, I have 8.5 inches, which is exactly what I have around my armhole line, so it's perfect. So I'll proceed to cut out. After cutting out, I also cut out on the second sleeve as well. So I went on to sew my darts and iron it. Sorry, it's wet because of the ironing, and I sew my both darts on the front, and this is the back part. I also sew my darts on the back part as well. I did it on both sides. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to attach my strap. So I cut this strap that is 9 inches on folds. So remember, the main strap is 8 inches, and I cut at 9 inches. Remember this part where I notch, which is exactly my bust span divided by 2 measurement. So I went on to place the strap on it, ensuring that I measure out the 1 inch allowance that I have, and I'm going to join it this way also at the back as well. Okay, so I was done joining, as you can see, and after I was done joining, and I did the same thing on the front and the back, ensuring that I join with 1 inch. You can see the 1 inch allowance there, and I measured it. I have exactly 8 inches, which is perfect for what I removed when I was cutting the off shoulder around that side. So I'm going to go ahead to close the zipper allowance with loose stitch. Before I do that, I'm going to pipe this upper part, and I'll also do the same thing on the upper part of the neckline. So I was done piping it, as you can see here, and I also closed my zipper allowance with loose stitch like I mentioned earlier, as you can see here. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to attach my sleeve. So I went on to hem my sleeve. Okay, so now to attach our sleeve, I'm going to measure what I have here on the front neckline, and I'm going to divide into two to get the midpoint. So I'll mark on the midpoint. Remember, when I was drafting, I told us that my chest line for the front is 12 inches, right? So I'm going to mark on the midpoint here, and from there I'm going to measure 6 inches, which is half of 12 inches. Okay, so I did that on this side, and I'll do that on the second side as well. I'm also going to use the same thing for the back, even though the back part was supposed to be 6.5 inches, but this fabric is a bit stretchy, and it doesn't have lining piece. Do you understand? So the back part was supposed to be 13 inches, but I'm using the same 6 inches because it's stretchy like I mentioned. Okay, so I'm going to attach my sleeve now, and I went on to hem both the upper part and the down part of my sleeve. So I'm using this black fabric for the second sleeve. Okay, so I went on to hem both of them up and down, as you can see here. Okay, so remember, when I was cutting, I told us that the sleeve part is going to be 16 inches after I subtracted it with subtracted what I have on my front chest line and back chest line. Okay, so after I subtracted what I have there, I was left with 16 inches, and the 16 inches is what I have here. So one sleeve has 8 inches when it's unfold, 4 inches. The other sleeve has 8 inches when it's unfold, 4 inches. So that's why I'm marking my 4 inches, as you can see. And I'm going to align these 4 inches to the marking I already have on my main fabric, and I'll go ahead and I will join. So I'll do that on both sides and bring it back for us to see. So if you have watched up to this point, you have not liked this video, go ahead and hit on the like button, subscribe and comment. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. So I was on attaching my sleeves, as you can see, and the next thing I did was to join the side. Okay, so I joined the side with my measurement, as you can see. Okay, so next I am going to loosen the zipper allowance that I joined with loose stitch, and I'm going to hem the down part of my top. I'll hem the down and also attach my zipper. So I was done doing that, I went on to attach my zipper, and I also hemmed it down, and this is the final outcome of our top. So this is how beautiful it is looking. So go ahead and like this video and subscribe if you have not done so. Thank you so much, I really appreciate. See you some other time when I drop tutorial like this. Bye.